Why are housing solutions making homes harder to build? Real question. From Canada's per-unit development charges to Europe's investment bottlenecks, the rules meant to help are quietly choking supply, even as demand doesn't quit. In the next minutes, we'll trace the global choke points. Stalled productivity in construction, financing squeezed by trade volatility, and policy that looks good on paper but slows projects in the real world. Stick around to map the only levers that add real supply without the wishful thinking. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. You think your city is uniquely cursed? Here's the twist. Your rent in London can get more expensive because of fees in Vancouver. Sounds disconnected, but housing math is global now. Developers and lenders price risk across countries. When one hot market hikes per-unit charges or drags out approvals, the risk models tighten everywhere. Cheaper money pulls away. The rest of us pay more to cover the spread. Here's the thing. Supply is capped by friction, not just demand. Every project starts with land, then stacks labor, materials, financing, and an entire layer of policy. Each layer adds cost and time. Enough layers and the deal dies before the first shovel. That capped supply isn't mystical. It's a spreadsheet with red cells and a polite email that says, "We'll revisit next year," which never happens. Governments love slogans. Canada rolls out shiny program names. Europe promises green cranes and faster builds. Then starts fall, timelines stretch, and the backlog gets older and more expensive to revive. If you've watched a mid-rise sit fenced for 2 winters, you know the vibe. The site doesn't get cheaper while it waits. Interest ticks, insurance ticks. The permit clock doesn't care that your pro forma cracked in month 7. Think of development charges like an entry toll at the on-ramp to a highway you already paid taxes for. You still have to buy the car, gas it up, and pay insurance. That toll stacks on top of land, labor, and financing. Marginal projects, those thin margin infill blocks and missing middle townhomes, stall first. The rich, easy parcels still go. The everyday housing we actually need? Unbuildable at the edge. Let's get specific on the cost stack. Cities in Canada tack on per-unit fees that can run deep into 5 figures before a brick shows up. Construction costs have jumped roughly 2/3 since the early 2000s. Productivity in building hasn't kept up, so unit labor costs climb even when wages look normal. That combo is brutal. Higher inputs with no efficiency offset. It's like raising the price of flour and yeast while your oven still burns 1 loaf out of 10. Europe mirrors it. Massive investment targets, net zero retrofits, new social housing goals. The pipeline sounds heroic. Then permits stick, funding windows narrow, and rules multiply. You get cranes, but not where and when needed. A developer lines up land and equity, then waits for a utility sign-off that moves 2 seasons late. Multiply that by 100 cities, and you get a continent-wide slow drip that looks like a drought. Now the AI curveball. Politicians promise an efficiency boom. Someday, sure. Right now, you get weirdness. Office vacancies shift demand downtown. Empty floors gut municipal revenues tied to assessments, and cities lean harder on fees to plug budget holes. Builders see that and price in new risk. Lenders widen spreads. The AI saves us headline meets the project's penciling worse reality. Even if prices recover a bit, starts in 2026 and 2027 don't bounce back to the last peaks. The math still fails. Debt costs stay higher than the glory days. Materials don't roll back to 2014. Approvals don't magically halve. So Shovel Ready quietly rebrands to Shovel When Rates Drop, which is code for maybe never. Mini payoff? The global housing lie isn't demand. It's the universal cost stack, entry tolls, slow approvals, low productivity, that quietly kills new supply. And if your city feels uniquely broken, it's running the exact same playbook as everyone else. So if policy is the choke, what's squeezing the oxygen? Follow the money, trade shocks and capital flows. Why would a tariff in Washington or a chip subsidy in Arizona nudge your mortgage rate in Dublin? Because money follows gravity, and right now the center of gravity is the United States. Capital chases yield and predictability. When Washington rewrites trade rules and throws industrial policy cash at factories, grids, and semiconductors, global investors shift their allocations. That tug pulls cheap funding away from slower, messier housing pipelines abroad. Let that sink in. Here's the thing. The old housing model breathed low rates. Now term premia lift long bonds, policy risk stacks on top, and your apartment tower is competing with fighter jets, wafer fabs, and a national grid overhaul. Those have political air cover. Housing does not. A lender looks at a 20-year asset with zoning roulette and fee creep versus a 10-year treasury backed by the world's reserve currency. Guess which one gets the cheaper coupon? Tariff shocks act like a tax on materials, while central banks keep conditions tight to fight the inflation those shocks feed. Steel, wiring, HVAC units, inputs you can't substitute overnight, cost more. At the same time, risk spreads widen because volatility jumps when trade rules become moving targets. That combo wrecks a pro forma. Your contingency gets eaten before the crane shows up. You cut the scope or you shelve the project. Take cross-border North America. When rules of origin or dispute panels under USMCA get cloudy, capital pauses. You don't commit to a 5-year housing pipeline next to a supply chain you might have to reroute in 18 months. In the UK and the Eurozone, growth stays weak and fiscal space is tight, so treasuries prioritize energy and defense over housing. Local authorities stretch budgets, then lean on higher development fees to patch holes, which loops back into higher per-unit costs. It's real. It's happening. Now contrast inside Europe. Spain keeps posting steadier growth and labor reforms that look functional on paper. Germany and Italy wrestle with industrial drag and power prices that spiked, then stayed sticky. You'd think the healthier economy would greenlight housing faster, but permitting remains glacial. Utilities move at a seasonal pace. The bottleneck isn't just money. It's the queue. A stronger macro doesn't bulldoze a 14-month approval. Here's the twist you didn't ask for. AI rallies juice stock indexes and make it feel like capital is abundant, but the cash concentrates in a handful of mega caps and fab projects. Volatility goes up, long-term yields stay higher, and construction loans get pricier. Equity partners want shorter hold periods. Lenders demand more pre-sales you can't hit when buyers face higher mortgage tests. AI can boost productivity one day, sure, but near-term it tilts portfolios away from slow approval risk housing. So what levers actually move? Align capital and community so approvals don't die in court. In Canada, the First Nations Major Projects Coalition sits alongside a federal Indigenous loan guarantee that enables ownership stakes in major infrastructure. That model aligns social license with long-term capital, which can reduce friction and speed timelines because communities are equity partners, not just stakeholders. When the people who control the land share in the upside, the process gets clearer. Also, build the pipes before the houses. Transit, water, grid capacity. If you deliver enabling infrastructure, sites unlock, lenders believe schedules, and interest carry drops. It's like clearing an airport runway before you sell tickets. Plan the sequence and unit economics improve without a subsidy.